Coming up on Chesapeake Collectibles.
This is a German officer's army dagger. It actually is the first time we've had something like this in the last 10 years.
Delilah Pierce's works are doing very well on the African-American art markets.
There are several areas of Native American culture that have become iconic in people's minds when they think of collectibles. Beadwork would be right there with them.
I just love the color. It reminded me of an Italian palette.
I brought a collection of artistic maps that my dad drew during the World War II. General Bradley said, you know, I would like 500 copies.
Major funding is provided by... Since 1924, Alex Cooper Auctioneers has been serving the Mid-Atlantic states, featuring monthly gallery antique auction sales. Our staff can assist clients with the disposition of their valued possessions. Alex Cooper Auctioneers.
We have an amazing show for you today, and I guarantee it will not disappoint. Welcome to Chesapeake Collectibles. I'm Maria Fiken. You know, the treasures and tools that we use in life can reveal quite a bit of who we are as a people. Whether it's a silk shawl, or an ivory pipe, or a mechanical toy, someone, somewhere, has a story of how that item touched their life. And it's always fascinating. Let's listen in.
Hi, and welcome to Chesapeake Collectibles. What did you bring today for us to take a look at?
I brought 3 paintings by DC painter and native Washingtonian Delilah W. Pierce, who was born in 1904 and died in 1992. She spent a lot of time on Martha's Vineyard, and so these are 3 scenes of Martha's Vineyard, one of the harbors, shells on the shore, and Japanese lanterns.
So can you tell me how you acquired these pieces?
I acquired these pieces from my great aunt Dorothy Howard Sales, who was a principal at 2 Washington, D.C. public schools. And Delilah Pierce was a personal friend. She was a contemporary. Both of them also spent some time on Martha's Vineyard in the summer, so my aunt acquired a number of Delilah Pierce's paintings. And when she died, they eventually found their way into my house.
And what are your plans for the pieces?
My plans are to renovate my house to highlight the pieces even more. This is hanging over my desk in my home office, and that's a good place for it. This is in my entrance area, so it's the first thing I see when I come in, and this is in my dining room. So I think they'll be there for as long as I can keep them there.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you for bringing in these lovely pieces by Delilah Pierce. I love these scenes by the water, as you pointed out, her time at Martha's Vineyard. Another thing that I love about these pieces is that they're clearly signed. We can see the signature clearly on all 3 pieces. Have you ever had these pieces assessed for value?
Not before today.
Well, if I were insuring these pieces, this larger piece would be insured for $15,000 to $20,000. The 2 smaller pieces, about $4,000 to $6,000 range. Delilah Pierce's works are doing very well on the African-American art market, so at auction, who knows what we would see with her numbers. Definitely continue to enjoy them, and I hope your family enjoys them, and I really appreciate you bringing them in for us to take a look at today.
Well, thank you very much, and I will continue to enjoy them as I have.
I want to thank you for coming into Chesapeake Collectibles today. Would you mind telling me a little bit about what you brought today?
Yes, my stepfather was with the Department of the Interior.
Okay.
And he was posted out west. And that is all I know.
Out west, somewhere
out west.
West of the Mississippi.
Yes.
All right. Well, what we have here is a Native American beaded piece. What time frame was he posted out there?
30s, 40s, something like
Okay.
that.
This is probably when this piece was made, maybe a little earlier, in the 20s. It's a ceremonial belt. There are several areas of Native American culture that have become just almost iconic in people's minds when they think of collectibles coming out of that area. Beadwork would be right there with them. They adorned with all manner of beadwork and design on all sorts of everyday objects. What we have here is probably something that was made in the 20th century, first half of the 20th century. We have a mix of early beadwork was done with a lot of with glass beads, a lot of it coming out of Europe. We've got a mixture of glass and production beads that are incorporated here. It's not all one, but we've got a very elaborate design. Very good leather working. This is a hang-down piece with an older belt, with something from the 19th century. We might see, instead of these representations of metal discs, we might see actual coins that have been incorporated into it. It's fascinating. This is, I think, one of the better examples of beadwork that I've seen in a long time. Have you ever had anybody look at it on your behalf or value it for you?
No, never.
Okay. These react to geographic availability. So in the East, we've seen these at auction. Probably the West perform a little bit better at West. In a good auction with other Native American material, I think we would see this selling in the $700 to $900 range. It's a fine example. If it were a little earlier, that value is going to go up. If it were in an auction in Phoenix and Tucson, you're going to see, I think, a lot more interest on that. It's probably from New Mexico or Arizona. It's a wonderful example of Native American beadwork and culture, and I really want to thank you for bringing it in today.
Thank you.
It looks like it had been messed with.
So essentially what it is very late in the very early 20th century.
Okay.
All around us, collectors have brought in jewelry, asking, is it old? Is it gold? Is it real? So our experts peer through magnifying glasses and eyepieces and even microscopes to find clues. Appraiser Nina Wolford is unraveling the mystery of a polished stone.
The definition of a gemstone, first of all, is that it's durable, rare, and beautiful. This is a ring that's set with a cluster of sapphires. The sapphires are pretty decent stones to begin with, but they're cut so well that they just sparkle with the light. And you look at this cluster and it's so bright and you just have to think there must be some diamond in it, but there's none at all. This beautiful little piece right here is a pink spinel. And spinel has a lot of light bending properties similar to diamond. So if it is cut well, it will be just as brilliant and just as bright as a diamond and have that beautiful rich color to boot. This piece right here, from the turn of the 20th century, is a little Edwardian brooch set with really bright little sapphires, and most likely these are our own Montana sapphires. They have a property of their own of just brilliance and brightness. So this little group uses the benefits of gemstones called brilliance to play with the light and make them bright. The second group uses a gemstone property called scintillation. That's simply light bouncing off the surface of the stone. If you look at these stones, they're cut on the front and the back with many multiple facets. They're called briolets. This is a briolet citrine. This is a briolet amethyst. They work on the property that light bounces off as the piece moves. It makes them sparkly. It's called scintillation. This group over here uses a really subtle play of light on the surface of the stone. It's called luster. When you first look at these strands of pearls, they look very similar until you look a lot closer. This middle strand is a really nice quality in itself, but you notice that the light is, while it's bright, it's a little subtle. If you compare it to this next one beneath it, you can actually see that the reflection is much sharper. That's a much higher luster. This pearl here, while it's not as bright as the others, is very subtle and soft, and it actually has a luster that we refer to as a satin luster. So this next set over here actually works on a different gemstone property. It's called play of color, and opal is all about the play of color. We have a beautiful turn of the 20th century necklace, but if you look closer, this one here is pretty. But the beauty of opal, in my mind, is actually compared to the brilliance and beauty of a butterfly wing. So the closer you get to a butterfly wing, the better the quality of the opal. So if we compare this one to this next opal down here, you'll see that the second opal has a lot more colors of the rainbow. It has blues and greens and some more oranges, but it's also a little brighter, and the color just looks like it's closer to the surface. If you look at this one, it just simply is sparkling and playing with color and moving light all the way around, and it's showing almost all the colors of the rainbow: the reds, oranges, the yellows, the greens, the blues, and the violet. This is a beautiful Mexican opal. Here's an example of why diamonds sometimes take away from the piece instead of add to the piece. If you remove the ring around this opal and you show this ring is actually set with a circle of diamonds, all of a sudden it becomes a diamond piece of jewelry and not an opal piece of jewelry. So that's one of the reasons why some of my favorite pieces of jewelry don't have any diamond at all, because as you can see, the stone itself is beautiful without the diamond.
We brought in something today for the show that actually is the first time we've had something like this in the last 10 years of episodes. What do you got here?
Well, this is a dagger that my father, who was in the Army in World War II, his unit spent some time in Germany. He brought some things back that I assume had been taken maybe from German citizens. So there were a Luger pistol and some other things, and also this, which is, as best I can tell, a Nazi dagger. It has a swastika on it, and I don't really know anything else about it, which is why I'm here.
Did he ever tell you the story behind B.O. getting it?
No, he didn't. I have this sense, and maybe he told me, I mean, this would have been years ago. He may have told me, but I don't remember any specifics. But as I said, there was an extraordinary amount of things. I mean, 3 pistols, a ceremonial sword, all sorts of things. And so I think he must have told me that soldiers could bring these things back. It wasn't controlled, I guess. So.
Did you ever see any paper documentation?
No.
For the permission to bring it back?
No,
yeah,
no, and I'm guessing there may not have been any, but I don't know.
But usually there is.
Oh, okay.
And usually they weren't saved.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay.
But yeah, what you brought in here, this is a German officer's army dagger from the Wehrmacht. The Germans took great delight in their cutlery industry and their daggers. And every service, the Army, the Navy, the Luftwaffe, Air Force, the SS, and previously the SA, the brown shirts, they all had their daggers. These were ceremonial to be worn with the uniforms, usually in parade, those kind of activities that they would be doing. The Army had permission that in what they called their walking out dress, that when they were out about town, that they could wear their daggers at that time. It is with a kind of the yellowish handle on it, a celluloid, is typical for the Army style. This is the hanger, and this is a high quality officer's hanger. It has a silver thread that was woven into that. That would have been then hooked to his belt to be able to carry when he was out. The portpie here that, as you see, is hanging in the style that you would have expected to have been found. At the end of the war, as the Allies moved into Germany, the German people were disarmed. and they had to turn in all of their, not only blades, but they also had to turn in all their firearms. And as they went into towns and villages, often they would go to find a local burgomaster, order everybody to turn things in. And I've actually talked to some veterans with cases where, as the civilians brought things down and piled them in the town center, American soldiers would be standing in guard. They'd see something that they liked, pick it up, and take it home as a souvenir. The maker of the dagger, Clement and Young. Clement and Young was a well-respected, well-known quality maker that was in business until they got bombed out of business in 1944. But it is a very nice condition, very nice example of a Wehrmacht officer World War II service dagger. Have you ever had any valuation put on it?
No, I have not.
As just an object, as it is, would have a general market value of about from $800 to $1,200. What I would recommend you to do, though, write down what your father told you about this, include the other items that he brought back to be able to make it all part of the story, the provenance that goes along with this. Daggers, Lugers, helmets were the three big categories of souvenirs brought home. Thank you very much for bringing this nice example in.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And the fact that she also had a Confederate pistol.
And what did you bring us today?
Nice to be here. I brought a collection of artistic maps that my dad drew during World War II in North Africa and Sicily. And he started out in the National Guard to help pay for his way through college.
What year was that?
And that was in 1940 when he first joined the Guard. And then in 41, the Guard got called up after the bombing at Pearl Harbor, and he was shipped over to Europe in 42, left England, and went down to North Africa under Patton with the 2nd Corps. He originally started with the military police, and a friend of his asked him if he was any good at draftsmanship, and Dad said, well, I had some college courses in landscape design, so they ended up transferring him into the 2nd Corps headquarters as a cartographer. And so he would do these maps as a artistic version in addition to the maps that he drew for the headquarters.
So was the artistic endeavors personal interest, or were they ordered from to do them for historical perspective for the 2 Corps?
They were personal interests.
Right.
Dad did watercolors of Mount Etna in Sicily and some other things. But he basically did these just as a personal desire. And the Sicily map here, General Bradley knew that he was working on this map. There's a picture of Dad actually working on it in Sicily in 1943. And so after the map was done, he took it to General Bradley's office and asked if he would sign it. And General Bradley was more than happy to, and also General Keane, as Chief of Staff, signed one of the other corners. General Bradley said, you know, I would like 500 copies of this made to give to my friends. And my dad said, well, if you give the order, we'll make it happen.
Wow, that's very cool.
So this smaller is one of the copies that he gave Dad to keep. So after the map was complete, Dad bought some molding made of plaster at Palermo, and then sent the map with the molding back to his dad in Meridian, Mississippi.
Very cool.
And so this map hung in my grandfather's house forever. He was really proud of it.
So have you ever had this appraised before?
I've never had it appraised, no.
Okay. Well, it's a really interesting World War II piece of memorabilia. I would assign value for the paintings at about $800 to $1,200 a painting because of what they represent. But I would add about another $500 to the signature of Omar Bradley. So I think I would total the collection at about $3,000. $2,000 for one, $1,000 for the other. Nice items. Thank you so much for coming by and sharing your story.
Wow, that's nice.
I really appreciate it.
Great.
It's been a really great experience being able to tell the story.
Thank you.
So what can you tell me about this rug?
Well, we received this rug from my husband's grandmother. She was born in 1890, so I have no idea when she got it, but we just know it's old. And through my career in each of my offices, I just took it with me because I just love the color. It reminded me of an Italian palette. So no one else in the family wanted it, so I took it.
So it's a Shiraz rug from southern Persia, from the Fars area, southwest Persia, and it's built on a wool foundation. A lot of rugs are built on cotton foundations with a wood pile. This has a wool foundation. It's really interesting because you'll see they've used various colors of wool all the way through here.
Right.
It's a fairly primitive nomadic rug.
Okay.
It was made not for the decorative market. It looks geometric, but in actuality, if you look at it carefully, it's more floral because these are little floral vases. See this, the devices here? Here you have cedar trees. Even when you get here to this border, this really stylized border, these are actually little rosettes.
Rosettes.
Just geometrically rendered. And they do that because it's a fairly loose knot count.
Right.
So it lends itself to straight or rectilinear design.
Right.
So if you look at it carefully, though, you'll see that these are all floral devices.
I never looked at it that way.
It's both. It's geometric,
right,
and it's floral. And typical of these rugs, again, is the wool foundation, and then in your border, you'll see the selvage here. You'll see they use various different colors, the colors that are taken from the inside of the rug. So the rug has dyes in it, like these orange dyes are really strong. The Shiraz rug is known for its glowing colors. So in order to enhance that, and when this rug was made, which is probably around 1910, they had introduced aniline dyes, which is it's not a vegetable dye, which they tend to be a little sharp in color, but they're also bright.
Right.
So we can tell it's not after World War I, because at the beginning of World War I, they stopped using those dyes. So that helps us to identify the age. The other thing interesting about the rug is it really has some problems in terms of wear.
Right.
You'll notice it's missing its fringe up here, but fortunately the rug is still intact. The pattern goes all the way around this guard border right here.
Right.
That's still intact, so that could be saved, and then you just trim this off a little bit and make it look nice and neat. So that fringe is not critical. The selvage here you'll see is quite worn.
Yes.
That also could be replaced. But overall the rug has even wear all the way out through it. And if you look really carefully in here, you'll see that the black areas are quite low. Here, and there's an area over here also. That's because the dyes have oxidized. And so when the dyes oxidize, it wears faster. So even though it's immersed right here in this orange, it's still low right in there.
So does that reduce the quality of the...
Yes and no, and it reduces in the sense that it has this wear factor, but it enhances it in the sense that it shows it's an old rug. So it gives it a little bit of charm, and the fact that it's protected by the higher pile here means that it really is not any significant damage to the rug. You'll see it's right in here also. It adds to the quality of the rug. So it's really a nice old piece. It's not a fine rug. It's kind of a primitive village rug or a nomadic rug. And have you ever had it appraised or evaluated before?
You know, I never have. There's some damage from our previous pet, but
right here.
Yes, but no, I haven't. And I'd love to know what it is.
I would say it's probably worth on the market today about $800.
Oh my goodness!
If it were in better shape, it would be worth more. It's not a highly collectible rug, but it's interesting and it's a pretty dynamic. And I like to use the word glowing rug just because of the pretty
colors.
Of the pretty oranges in it.
It's not your usual Persian color in my experience, so I just love it. So thank you.
I think it is an attractive rug.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next week is the final episode of Season 10 of Chesapeake Collectibles. And as we like to say, we have saved some of the best for last. Let's take a look at what's coming up. You won't want to miss it.
I want to go to the most important aspect of this, the human John Glenn.
These are instructions as to how to turn on the television, the DVD. He could orbit the Earth, but like the rest of us, he needed instructions to turn on the television.
People would send him seahorses from all over, and he would gold plate them and silver plate them.
It definitely conveys a significant part of the African American history, not only via what your family member did in the community, but also his place in the church.
What'd you pay for it?
$50.
$50, that's a pretty good deal.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Chesapeake Collectibles. I'm your host, Rhea Fiken, and we'll see you next time.
Major funding is provided by... Since 1924, Alex Cooper Auctioneers has been serving the Mid-Atlantic states, featuring monthly Gowrie antique auction sales. Our staff can assist clients with the disposition of their valued possessions. Alex Cooper Auctioneers.